Hello, welcome to this episode of Passionate About Parenting. Today we have with us a very, very special guest. It's Afshan Tafa. I hope I pronounced that right. A
Yes, you did.
whole
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Afshan. I've
Thank you.
been excited to get your view on it. You're a whole life coach. Could you tell the audience a bit more about your work and what you do?
Yes. So thank you. Really happy to be here. So thanks for inviting me on. So I'm a whole life coach, and the focus of my work is really to help people to create better emotional health. And my two areas of focus are both chronic illness and parenting, conscious parenting. And so what I really help people to do is learn a better way to be with their emotions and release their emotional stress so that they can thrive and be more resilient in life. And I'm a whole life coach because I look at it from a very holistic picture, and mind, body, and soul perspective in terms of really healing and getting back to our authentic selves and expressing that authentic self in this lifetime.
Yeah. So this is about tapping into our authentic and loving nature as moms, as mothers. Yeah, just really working with that together with that part of us, because I find that it can work against us, all our ambition. But we have this natural ability to be loving, and we are loving. We're not meant to be angry. There's something off when that comes about. And I find that I can snap in and out of it real quick, but I like the keys so I can be in the driver's seat and not like,
Right.
whoa, I snapped, what happened? And, and,
Right.
and I do see that there's a lot of tools, but I'd love your input on this to the woman.
Okay. Well, when you asked me to speak on the summit, I kind of chuckled to myself because I'm like, oh, this is so suited to me because, my whole life, I have struggled with, I'm so sweet and so loving. And then boom, I've got this like rageful, angry side to me, and my parents always said to me, Afshan, you're so perfect except for your anger. And I was always like, oh, so then what did I learn growing up? I learned to hate my anger.
Mhm.
And I also learned to really love my really loving, helpful self, but I learned to really hate the angry part of me.
Mhm.
And what I would have to say with anger is that, so first of all, we're like, as human beings, we are biologically wired to experience anger. The challenge is that none of us were really taught, not from our families, not from society, from cultural standards, none of us were taught how to express anger in a healthy way. And so because we didn't learn it, we ended up either taking on, what we learned from our caregivers, which were either they got angry at us when we got angry. So we learned those angry patterns, but we also learned to suppress it and push that anger down, and not express that anger. So a lot of us go through cycles of, the anger bubbles up, we like swallow it down, we say no, it's not okay to get angry, and we push it down, but then it builds, our nervous system gets overloaded, and then boom, we explode. So this is not, a healthy cycle to be in. But the challenge is that none of us really learn the skills of how to really be with anger in a healthy way. And so that's really a lot of what I do, is a lot of what I teach, and a lot of the journey that I've gone on, because of a lot of the shame that I felt of having this angry part of me, and I say part of me because when we identify anger with all of us, like I am an angry person, then it becomes all encompassing. And the reality is that we're not angry all the time. So it's not all of us, it's a part of us. Um, and, and then also to know that this part of us is getting angry for a reason. And so to really look beneath that and understand the reasons why we get angry, so that anger doesn't control us anymore. We can understand it, we can become aware of it, we can be with it in a healthy way, process it, understand the messaging behind it, what healthy action we need to take from it. um, that it sounds like a lot.
That sounds great. I was thinking, give me some of that. I love that.
Yeah.
I want that.
Okay, great. I mean,
Zap
I
it
think
over.
all of us want that, because what happens when we like really get angry? It's horrible. We sit in a pool of guilt and shame, and it's
I do afterwards, but that's
right?
because I take it out on my kids, these innocent little creatures. So it feels
I
all,
hear you.
I don't care about my anger with anybody else but my kids. I mean,
Right. I hear you. I hear you. I've been there, and I have sat in that awful pool of shame and feeling absolutely horrible about myself. But so one of the challenges with that cycle of you have anger, you blow, then you sit in guilt and
Mhm.
shame, and that just feeds the cycle
It
back
does,
into
it
having the
does. Because you
explosion
blame
again. Because
yourself.
right, you blame yourself. You can only feel awful for so long, and then you don't want to feel that way anymore, so then you end up lashing out on the people are
Yeah.
that are closest to you, for feeling that way. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a really vicious cycle. So the key is to really understand that, first of all, having anger is not your fault. Okay, you're human. You're biologically wired to experience it. What you learn, if you're expressing anger in unhealthy ways, so either you're repressing it, pushing it down, or you're having explosions of rage. And if you're having, or you're sitting in a pool of resentment, which is like, the saying, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah, and hating
Resentment.
yourself for doing something, but then staying locked in.
Yes.
Because you hate yourself. Yeah.
Yes. And so like when you resent yourself, you're poisoning yourself. When you resent other people, you're poisoning yourself too. So it's the same, they're just unhealthy cycles. And the problem is that none of us really learned the healthy way to be with anger. So Dr. Gabor Mate, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but he wrote the book, When the Body Says No. And in that book, he interviews a doctor. He looks at some of the research of this doctor, I'm forgetting his name, who did these studies on anger and noticing the stress response and the anxiety response, measuring it on these machines, stress reading machines that determine the stress response and the anxiety response in the body. And so what they found was that people who repressed anger, pushed it down, had an anxiety stress response. People who had rage had a anxiety stress response. But people who expressed anger in a healthy way came up, they understood what it meant, they took action, and they created the boundary, and they said no, or whatever it was that they needed to do. They actually didn't show any signs of stress in their body.
So what's a healthy way to because I find that I don't want to make the excuse that it's okay to get it out. Like, oh, then the anger is out, but it's not out. It's in my kids, right? They're still scared, or it's in between me and my husband.
Right.
So what's a healthy
great
way?
Point, great point. So that's the getting the anger out. So what I mean by getting the anger out is not getting it out in the way of rage. So first of all, noticing that we have a pattern, that this anger likely is building, that then explodes, right? So noticing that we have a body response. So the first thing that I do when I work with people is really having them notice the body response that's happening in their body when they're getting angry, because our body will react first, not our mind. It will be our body that will. And if we can get a hold of that body response and start to take some do deep vagus nerve breathing. The vagus nerve is the nerve that calms our body down. And there's a special way of breathing where you have a longer out breath than the in breath. So shorter, so 4 counts in, 6 counts out. Longer out breath. You can blow out your mouth, or you can, blow out your nose. But it's this longer out breath that stimulates the vagus nerve to then calm the body down in the face of stress, in the face of the anger. So what you want to do is be able to keep your higher thinking brain online when you are experiencing that anger so that you can think straight through it. So the way I hack that system, that anger response, is you hack the body response, right?
So you don't get
It's an
hijacked.
automatic response that's coming up because it's programmed in your subconscious mind, and it's an automatic reaction. It's a visceral reaction. It's an animal reaction, right? And the problem is when it comes up and we either shut it down or express it in a violent way, that's not healthy, right? So when it comes up, we want to breathe. We want to keep our thinking brain online, and we want to understand it. So the first step is the body, hacking into the body, doing the breathing, coming back online, and allowing yourself to notice, hey, I'm angry, and label the emotion. I'm angry. And you can say this to your children. My body's doing this. I do this all the time. I'm feeling like I'm getting angry. And I say this to my son all the time. I don't want to have rage on you. I'm going to breathe right now. And this is modeling for our kids, how to work with this anger response that's coming up, because we never learned this. What happened when we were kids and got angry? Probably got slapped or yelled at or something, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't okay, or our parents disconnected from us. They looked at us, they looked down on us, and they said, no, I'm not going to accept you, and I'm not going to talk to you when you're angry. So what do we learn? We don't learn a healthy way to be with our anger, and being with our emotions is all a learning experience. It's really skills, developing the skills to be with these intense emotions. So if we didn't learn that, then now's the time as an adult to learn it and then model it for our children, so they know when they're feeling this response, they can breathe, and they can see, okay, mommy's getting up here. Maybe, let her breathe. So then you start to breathe, you calm yourself down, and you can say to them, I'm feeling angry right now. This is hard for me, and I'm feeling angry right now, and modeling that for them. So it's the body response, and then labeling the emotion, and in the moment, doing it in front of your kids, showing them that, look, I am taking charge of this anger feeling that's coming up. And
turning it around.
Yeah. And then as they see that, then it doesn't become a disconnecting experience. It doesn't become, I'm angry, I'm going to have rage on you, I'm leaving, I don't love you anymore, messaging, right? Mm-hmm. That the kids feel and they take in. Instead, it's like, okay, I'm angry, but I can stay connected to it. I can keep my brain online. I can breathe. I can model it for you, that what I'm doing, I can be honest with you, so I stay connected with you.
Because they feel it. Even if we try to pretend we're not, right, they'll still feel it.
Yeah, and so that's a lot of the problem. So look, a lot of my experience, because I have a child who has a lot of challenges with emotional regulation. So I am tested a lot. Okay. And then having really chronic illness. Yeah, it's right. That's how you become an expert, right? Through life experience, not just through studying all these things.
But no. I learned everything from my experience.
Right. Everything. Yeah. And so that sent me on a journey. So I got angry a lot, but what I did was I swallowed a lot of it. And what happens is when you swallow it, or you pretend you're not angry, see, anger is part of life force energy. They're one and the same, believe it or not. So if you go to these experts in, trauma and body work, like somatic experiencing, Dr. Peter Levine, he talks a lot about this, where anger is life force energy. So it's kind of like a ladder. You start with hostility, rage, or suppressed anger. And then as you get to express healthy anger, then you start to feel strength and mm-hmm. power and life force energy, which is really your route to your authentic self. So when we don't express anger, we are actually pushing down our life force energy. So what happened to me was I had all this anger over what was happening, with my son, what he was expressing to me. And I've worked on it from the perspective of my belief systems, he helped me to heal a lot of my belief systems, right? Of perfection, of having things a certain way, of all of that I had to really work out of my system in order to not get so angry at him. But, initially, I would bury a lot of the angry responses. And what happened is that when you're in this heightened state and your anger's coming up, okay, and you're in that sympathetic arousal of your nervous system, and then you can't get angry because it's a child. So then what happens if you have a freeze response that comes from, trauma? Freeze response comes on top, boom, pushes down the anger, and there's all this anxious energy going, anxiety energy that wants, anger energy that wants to be released, but the freeze response comes on top. And then you go into this sort of like pattern of all of a sudden, like you're kind of frozen and numbed out so that you don't express your anger. And then that causes disconnection.
Because it is a
And
disconnection,
where we want
right?
to be is, yeah, it is. And it's disconnecting from your life force energy. It causes you to then disconnect from the people you love in front of you, and then that's
anger.
threatening to them. Like children, yeah. So children feel that disconnection as very threatening. So instead, if we can acknowledge, okay, I'm feeling like I'm getting angry right now, and I don't want it to get to rage. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to, I'm going to work through this. And it's something we can do with our kids so that they can learn too. And then we can have, once we're like back online and we're in a calmer place, we can have a conversation with them about it. And it's just learning a new way to be with anger with yourself and with your children.
And when they get angry, should we say it's okay to be angry?
Yes. So this is hard for a lot of parents because it depends on where you are. So what happens like when you're out and your child is getting angry, right? You're worried about what other people are thinking. So part of it's
well, like number one, don't think about what other people are thinking. Don't care about that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's very hard for us to do though, because we are human beings who are wired to be connected to the tribe. And so we are, from an evolutionary perspective, we are very wired to worry about what other people think. So just to understand that that's part of our wiring that we kind of have to override sometimes,
As moms, I feel more judged, or I feel more insecure. They might not even judge me. It's just my own insecurity, right?
Yes, right. So then part of it is belief systems and wanting to stay connected to the tribe and not wanting people to like think badly of us, right? And judge us. But yeah, so when your child gets angry, it's important to help him or her to really notice that, okay, do you notice what you're feeling right now? And sometimes helping them to label it. A lot of kids don't have skills in, depending on where your child is at in their emotional development, may not have skills in really expressing what they're feeling. And so they'll express it through aggression or crying or yelling and screaming. So they don't have the skills yet to say that, okay, I'm feeling angry about this, they'll just do it through action. So what our job as parents is really to help teach them, okay, do you notice what you're feeling? It seems like anger. Are you angry? And then helping them to acknowledge it. Once you label the emotion, the body actually does calm down quite a bit.
Oh,
and then yeah, so it's actually been shown in studies that the body, just labeling an emotion itself has a calming effect on the nervous system in the body. So that's helping a child to do that, yeah.
Maybe because you acknowledge it, it takes the edge of things. If you just say, I'm feeling a bit jealous, or I'm feeling a bit insecure, and as soon as you speak it, it's like, it doesn't have your power. But I like what you said about anger. So what I was thinking about was, first of all, I see what you mean. Because when I play sports, for example, I get really angry if a goal gets in, but then I use that anger to really it to work for me. So I was just thinking about when you talked about it, how can we then?
That's like a healthy aggression.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's where anger works for you. And you said anger is life creation. And I think about my mother, and I think about the creative force in us to create, children, businesses, and these things. So how do we embrace and live with our anger in a healthy way and use it? Because that means that we have a lot of anger, we have a lot of potential to create, right?
Yeah.
So how do we use it to become the creators that we're meant to be? And also, I believe we're meant to be loving mothers.
Yes.
So
totally. We're meant to be loving mothers, and we are loving mothers. I would challenge, if there's not that many mothers out there who are not loving. They are loving, but what gets in the way is the trauma and the past, wired in experiences that don't allow us to connect in the moment, right? So, okay, life force energy.
first of all.
Very,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very important. When we have full life force energy, we express, our authentic self, right? And so the way in which that we can maintain that creative life force is really through the healthy expression of anger, not letting it get bottled up and not letting it get to the explosion of rage, and learning that way of being, of first noticing all the reasons, becoming more aware of all the reasons why you get angry, and then understanding and changing the pattern to create this more healthy expression, to acknowledge that this is anger, to learn, what does anger want me to do right now? Is it to draw a boundary? Well, then I could do that in a healthy way. I can say to my kids, you know what, right now, that's not okay for me. And that's okay for me to say, I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
instead of pushing myself to do it and then getting angry at them later. Or if they're, fighting, yelling, and screaming, to really say that, to tell them that this is, I know, like, to help them work out their anger, right? To be there and help them work out their anger, but also to notice for yourself, this is making me really angry, and allowing that energy to come up. It doesn't mean the energy has to come out as like an angry action towards somebody. It's just saying, I'm angry and I need to let this out. So what I do often, in the moment, because you can't always you can't yell at your kids like they're fighting. You need to help them, right? Because they don't know how to work through their emotions.
We gotta
And
know.
you're the adult in the room.
Yeah.
So if you become the child in the room, it's not a great situation. So what I do a lot, because I have this visceral anger reaction that comes up, and it's a pattern, it's a habit that I've shifted a lot, but I'm still working on shifting, to be honest,
Yes.
and it comes up, and I think it's, well, we can talk a little bit more about this, but there's also generational stuff that's passed on down the line. So in order to not bury your life force energy and be able to be in that creative life force energy, the goal is to express your anger in healthy ways. So one of the healthy ways is I literally start to blow the anger out of me. Like, so there's this way that in somatic experiencing, Dr. Peter Levine does this like VOO sound, where you're literally like, and it really works. Like, it releases the anger. So you just blow out and you say VOO, but you're like,
Boo.
VOO.
I'm thinking about my mother right now.
Yeah. So like that. Does that remind you of your mom? Did she do that?
No, but she was very, very angry. We just have a lot of humor about our craziness. So.
Well, it's nice to have humor about it, right? But it's also like good to like find ways. What I encourage parents to do is find ways to release that anger, because some of these are just old patterns that have automatic, response systems happening. And if you can release that anger, get back into your regulated self, and, or in the moment, the other thing that I do a lot is I put my hand on my heart and I say, this is a moment of suffering. This is hard for me. I'm feeling really angry. And I activate that compassionate part of me. I breathe in and out of my heart, and I activate that compassionate part of me. And I just really, in the moment, help myself, because compassion softens, right? You want to soften, soften, soften. Acknowledge the anger, not bury it. Love yourself anyways for it. And I guarantee you the anger comes down.
Yeah, end of the line, we're angry at ourselves, right? And it's always where it's at. So we have the power to change it.
Yes. And then so if you don't bury that anger response, or are not in constant resistance, like fighting to not get angry, and then you're not going to be in that place of burying your life force energy either. It's very connected. Like, we have a part in our brain that so the same part in our brain that expresses happiness and joy gets activated with healthy anger. So there's a motivational factor to expressing anger, because it's for survival. We need it, right? If we didn't have a motivational activation in our brain for anger, then we would actually get rid of it, right? Who wants anger? We would get rid of it. So, but it's there for survival reasons. So it's just learning, again, this whole concept of learning the skill an understanding, not shaming yourself for it, giving yourself love regardless of it, and learning a new way to be with it. Because oftentimes when we were young, we were not given love for our anger. And if we are given love for our anger, then it can process and release much more quickly. And we're literally activating the self-care network in our brain to override and calm the anger, the amygdala, fight, flight part of our brain, and so self-compassion really can help too.
So what I hear you saying is that don't tell your kids that it's wrong to be angry. Don't tell them don't be angry. Just say it's okay that you're angry right now.
Yes.
That's lesson one, number one.
Lesson one, yes, acknowledge the anger. Let them know that it's okay to have angry emotions. Mm-hmm. Now, if their angry emotions are extreme and violent, in the moment, you got to maintain safety. Then later, you do teaching moments. You sit with them and say, I noticed that you had a really difficult time and, that you were really angry. What's up? And then you understand, the background behind it. And then you say, okay, so next time you're feeling that angry, help them come up with a solution. How can you help yourself? What can you do next time? Because you want to teach them that those explosions are not healthy, right? And they know that. They don't feel good about it. It's just they're kids and they can't, and they're testing, their boundaries, and they're learning, right? Mm-hmm. By having big emotions, and when they have big emotions they can't deal with. So it's really our job as parents to help them learn later.
And the way I find to do that is to be an example. So I try to focus on managing my emotions, and that's the way that, because they're mirrors, right? And they're sometimes very embarrassing mirrors, but it's the truth you can't run from, right? But luckily they're super smart as well. My 8-year-old told me, Mom, I know you're just angry at yourself, or maybe
really?
I think it's actually my 6-year-old.
Really?
The 8-year-old said, Mom, stop making excuses, because I talk about this all the time. I make huge mistakes, but they're so vivid, right? So it's great. And it's about the excuse. So for me, it's about knowing, okay, I'm angry at myself for allowing the kids to watch TV because I know it's bad for them. That's the trigger. Or like kind of just owning it and not staying in the excuse in the story to say that it's okay. Don't make it, for me, it's about not making excuses for getting angry at them.
Okay, so that's a good point. Like oftentimes I struggle with drawing boundaries. That's one of my struggles, like where again, the TV thing too, of drawing the boundary of saying that you can only watch this much TV. And then if I'm going to get mad at my kid for it, then it's my own fault because I have a problem with the boundary, right? So I agree, taking responsibility for what you're realizing is hard for you, right? So I tell my son too, I'm struggling with drawing a boundary for you because I don't want to make you unhappy, but at the same time I'm your parent and I need to help you to do things that are healthy for you. So we talk a lot about what's healthy and what's not healthy. And so he understands that. But then I help him come up with the solution too, because he needs control. And if he doesn't have control, there's explosion for him. And so we co-create the solution a lot.
And that's the key word with our kids. We co-create. So going to wrap this up to the woman watching with us today and our man. So that's the key, right? We create with our children, or we learn with our children, and just be honest and be a role model. Don't tell them it's wrong to be angry, and then be a role model and try to lead yourself.
Totally.
Afshan, you came with some amazing, really practical way. And I can't wait to do the I'm gonna not be mad. I'm just gonna go. I'll tap right into compassion and love and fun and think of my dear sweet mom who's up in heaven, who had a lot of love and a lot of anger. And so that it's gonna make me smile.
It releases. It really is a great tool. Highly recommended.
Just thinking about it. Thank you so much for this. And you also have something for the listeners, because I know a lot of women out there are going to get eager to connect with you and your amazing story. And I too want to learn more about you. So how can we connect with you and try some of your stuff?
Yeah, so there'll be a free link to a masterclass on anger. and how to transform toxic anger for better health and relationships. So it has both bents. It helps you to understand, you know, how anger impacts your body and your health if you
And
have
it
chronic
really
illness,
does. I
and
agree with
also
you.
in relationships. So once we get like that deeper awareness of anger, then we can start to really shift it and then transform it. And then there's tools, of course, on how to really work through shifting the pattern and learning a new way of being. So that'll be that. And then my
Amazing.
website is www.illuminateu with the letter u.ca.
Yeah, and
So
there's a
you can
link
find
for it.
other offerings on there as well. Yeah.
I cannot wait to try the masterclass. So to the audience, and the woman watching with us today, we have a Facebook group that you're probably into, and we're going to talk about this masterclass and share experiences. And I can't wait to try it. And it's great stuff. It's really what I need, and it's amazing. And I love the connection with the health as well. I have no doubt that big things are going to happen once we try this masterclass. So thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for your generosity, Afshan.
Thank
And
you. My
thank you for a
pleasure.
wonderful time. And
Thank you. My pleasure.
all right, that's it for this episode of Passionate About Parenting. Tune in tomorrow for our next show. All right, bye-bye.